You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home
exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets with Rob and another Mets Talk Live right here Monday, March 20th, 10 days away until opening day 2023 in Miami. We are ready to go, as a couple of you guys talked about in the chat in the video prior, with the closer options and trade scenarios the Mets might actually do. And, of course, people in the chat right now, we're talking about that people are getting nervous about the season now because of the fact that basically right now you know what your team is. Yeah, there's some questions of if Beatty's going to make the team, a couple of bullpen arms. But you know your team is your team. Whatever's internal options you have is going to be on that 26-man roster, and you got to go to war with the guys you got. You can't make trades. Even though you can, but it's very rare you see big trades happen right before spring or a couple of days after opening day and stuff like that. And obviously free agency is basically over, except maybe if the Mets sign Zach Britton, which is another option that the Mets could go after. But the good news is baseball is back. And you know what that means? Live streams during New York Met games right here on Talking Mets with Rob. And it is going to be a fun season. I can't wait for the Braves fans, the Phillies fans, the Dodger fans, all the fans that show up during games that we're either playing their team or when the Mets are struggling, they come on just to troll. And that is always fun when it happens, because I got the people in the chat to help me out a little bit, and that's always fun. So, yes, Ken, you did do great. Perfect. But I did it better. I'm sorry. But you tried. It's okay. As long as you try, right? I'd rather somebody try than not try. So, so with that said, we're gonna talk about the video that was just posted prior to the live stream coming on, and that is the Mets in the market for closer, and how realistic is it, and what are the options the Mets actually have if they are on the market looking to get a closer. I truly believe this. I don't care what they say in the media. I don't care what Buck Showalter says. I don't care what Billy Epler says. I truly believe that they do not trust or are confident enough in Adam Ottavino or David Robinson to throw them out there every save opportunity in the ninth inning. Granted, they might start off with that, but I think if there's a couple of bad outings, a bad month where whoever they decide to put in this closer role is struggling, that's when you're going to start hearing again the trade talks. And we all talked about Alexis Diaz once Edwin Diaz got hurt. Alexis Diaz was the first one to come up. And not because we knew at the time that the Mets actually spoke to the Reds about Alexis Diaz's last trade deadline, but was because of the fact that it was a connection with Edwin Diaz, his brother, obviously, and the fact he's one of the best closers in baseball, and he's young. And people were just, the connection just was obvious. But hearing recently, right after the Diaz injury in the World Baseball Classic, the first thing we started to hear that, and Andy Martino talked about it amongst other reporters, that the New York Mets did call about Alexis Diaz at the trade deadline. The Mets didn't do it because the price was way too high, which is very much expected because of the fact he is very much under team control. Just came up last year. He's very cheap, and there is no incentive right now for the Reds to trade him. It's not like he's coming up on a contract year where the Reds aren't going to pay him. So unless you really entice or blow them out of the water, at least at the trade deadline, they weren't going to do it because there's no incentive to do it. They're losing either way, with or without him. So unless they're going to benefit prospect-wise, they're not going to do it. And I spoke in the video a lot more. I go into detail about each trade option, which the names I will put up that I'll talk about. But I go into depth a lot more about each one of those options. But with Alexis Diaz, the most important thing to look at is that and by the way, in the Reds GM spoke to Jim Bowden, talking about asked him if Billy Epler this offseason during spring called him about Alexis Diaz, and he said no. But why would a GM of the Reds even answer that question unless they actually want the Mets to reopen conversations again? It seems like they were like pushing Billy Epler to say, hey, talk to us. We can work something out. It seems like that, because I don't see any GM saying, oh yeah, we spoke to that team. They wouldn't do that, especially during spring training when, everybody's getting ready for the season. If it was the trade deadline, all right, maybe. But it's very odd that the Reds GM openly said that Billy Epler has not contacted him about Diaz. That just makes me think, I could be wrong, but it makes me think that the GM of the Reds, wants to open up discussions again, because he made it known, he made it open to the public, he made it known through the media that no, Epler has not called me yet about Diaz. That seems like an open invitation for Epler to pick up the phone and discuss a trade package. And that's something that I'm telling you guys just right now, and I got this feeling that the New York Mets are going to try hard to get a closer. And if that's Daniel Bard, if that's Bednard, if that's Diaz, if that's somebody else that we don't even thinking of right now, that's the three options I think that I put in my video that I think are the realistic options. And as I said in my video, Daniel Bard is probably going to cost you the least out of Diaz and Bednard, because of the fact that He is much older than them. He is getting paid $9.5 million per year. Got 2 years left on his deal. The Rockies are going nowhere fast. And the Rockies are looking to probably shed that payroll because they're paying Chris Bryant that they gave a king's ransom to. So that is something that you have to look at when it comes to what the Mets are willing to do and what teams are willing to take for their closer. And that's why I think you looked at Daniel Bard. I know people like, why would you want Daniel Bard? Did you see what he did in the WBC? Well, if you look at his stats, he was extremely good last year in Colorado where pitchers go to die. And that is something that you also have to look at, considering the fact that he had under 2 ERA in Colorado on a bad team. And it's amazing that he actually pitched that well. And it's absolutely insane to me that that's actually how good he was. I didn't even think he was going to be that good. Like, I know he played for Colorado, and I'm like, he probably had like a 3 ERA, maybe a little higher, 3.5 ERA because he's in Colorado. He had an extremely good year. And not saying that he's going to replicate that because, bullpens are very fickle, and any closer is fickle. They usually are either very good and they usually are not consistent enough to be very good every single time. So that is something that you have to look at. Diaz is probably going to cost the most. Bednar is going to be the second most, and Bard is going to cost the least. It's just a matter of what the Mets are willing to do prospect-wise, and obviously if they want to add money to their payroll, clearly Bard is the option because you take on that money, you give less prospects. It's just that easy. So it's what the Mets are willing to do and want to do. Obviously, they would probably want Alexis Diaz, but guess what? It's not going to be easy to get him. And that is something that you just have to see what the Mets are willing to do. Are the Mets going to stick internally with Robertson and or Ottavino? I think they probably will early on, but I tell you right now, I think Epler has his hand on the phone just waiting to do something because I don't think he trusts those guys enough. And I think another arm in this bullpen will help the depth, will help it be a little bit more, have a higher confidence level when it comes to the bullpen, especially when you got to use one of your trusted arms in your bullpen as a closer now, which is only going to hurt the other part of your bullpen when you need them the most later in games, 6th, the 7th, the 8th. That's something that you have to look at as well. So with that said, guys, don't forget to please hit on that like button. And if you haven't checked out the video that came on prior to the live stream, check it out once you get a chance. It's about the 3 trade options the Mets possibly could have. Bednar from the Pirates, Daniel Bard from the Rockies, and, of course, Alexis Diaz from the Reds. So I go into detail about each one of them. The video is about 17 minutes long. I did that for a reason because I wanted to go into detail about each one of the pitches. I wanted to give you their stats and what I would think, why it would take more prospects for each one of those guys and less prospects for one of those guys. And you have a better understanding of why I think the best option is, at the moment, Daniel Bard because of the cost effectiveness prospect-wise. Well, yeah, man, it's never too early to trade. It never is. It's just if two sides are willing to do a deal, they can get it done. There's no, block of Major League Baseball where you can't make a trade. It's always possible. Last year, Trevino from when the Yankees got the catcher, Trevino, from, I forgot where he came from, but they traded them the day before opening day. So you can make trades. Again, that's not a big deal. But sometimes if the side that is trading for prospects likes the package, they will make the trade. It's just that simple. Not saying that it will happen. I just think that we have to look for it just in case things don't work out early on, or they might do it before the season. We shall see. Ken says, where is everyone? What do you mean? Yeah, Roberto. Look, I figured the Mets are going to do that. To be honest with you, I do think that, and Thierry, I will get to you in a second. Yeah, look, I know they said that, and again, what else are they supposed to say? They want to give confidence. They want to show confidence to their fans through the media about David Robinson. But I don't believe that they're that confident in David Robinson. They didn't get David Robinson to close. They got him to be the bridge to Diaz. And again, not saying Robinson is not going is going to be bad. I think that he'll be good, but he's up there in age. How much are you going to use him? When you pitch him 2 days, 3 days in a row, you're not going to have him for the next couple of days. So where do you go? That's where the Mets are going to start to have problems. And in the month of April, when we're on the road a lot, in the month of April, you need to win those games on the road because you also have the opportunity to win ball games on the road where you have a lot of games on the road in April, and that's going to help you if you have a really good April. And I think that's a big deal. And I know people are like, oh, April doesn't matter. Yes, it does. All right. We had this conversation last season where, every day it was like, oh, it doesn't matter about April. What matters in September. Yeah, but if you win 3 extra games in April, that might help you in September. So, you know what? And Diaz and the Mets bullpen wasn't very good in the month of April. The rest of the year, they were pretty damn good. But that month of April, if they would maybe saved 1 or 2 more games, or the bullpen didn't blow a lead in April, that could have made all the difference. Where that Braves series in September probably wouldn't have mattered. The Mets would have won the division, and maybe they would have went in with a little bit more confidence. But we really don't know because it didn't happen. All right, let's see. Let's. Well, Rocky, yeah, like they're not. I don't think they're gonna play games. Like I really don't think they're going to mess around because I do feel like Billy Epler is somewhat on the hot seat. To be honest with you, I don't think Cohen is gonna fire Epler only because of the fact that the only reason why they're probably not gonna fire him is because Epler has a relationship with Shohei Ohtani. So I think Epler is probably going to hold on for at least this after the season into the off season because of him with the relationship with Ohtani. But I think the pressure's on. With Cohen and the whole Correa thing falling through, and the Mets really didn't do much with the lineup. Yeah, they got better with the bullpen. Luckily, we got those arms in the bullpen. It would have been a real disaster losing Diaz. The lineup is basically the same. We did get Verlander to replace DeGrom. We placed Senga over Taiwan or Chris Bassett. We replaced Quintana with Walker. Now it's going to be Peterson instead of Walker. So there's changes where we felt pretty good with the rotation, but we got to, I'm worried about that. And again, if it looks bleak in April and we're losing games late in games because guys like Robinson, Ottavino, or whoever Buck chooses to throw that ninth inning, I don't think Robinson can go 3 days straight and, keep going or go 2 days straight and he might need days off. You're going to burn him out. And for a guy that's up there in age, I don't know who else you can trust. Can you trust Ottavino? Yeah, I would guess so. He had a really good year last year, so I'm not going to go crazy with that. But you got to be careful because, yes, you can lose the division in April. I know people are like, why would that? How can you say that? Well, yeah, if you have a bad April, not everybody can be the Braves the last 2 years and go ape crap in June and then basically never lose games the rest of the season. Sorry. Give me 1 second, guys. I know my mic's a little off. Hold on. Well, Stezo, guess what? this lineup, I mean, they're not a lineup that's going to blow you out of the water with runs. Even though they scored a little less than 5 runs per ball game last year, they're not a team that's going to win a lot of games 7-1, 6-1, like that. So, we are once again a team that is relying on pitching. And with Diaz at the end of the games is not there, you got to rely on your big boys in the rotation and the rest of the guys in the bullpen. Can they do that? Chelly, yeah, I know. I could trust me. Trust me. So with Nimmo, look. This was the thing with Nimmo that I've been saying throughout the entire offseason. He is a very fragile player. I mean, he made a silly slide and it almost broke his knee or broke his ankle or almost caused ligament damage. Thank God it didn't. But this was what I've been saying about Brandon Nimmo. In 7 years of his career, he stayed healthy for the majority of the year once, and that was last year in a contract year when he played over 140 games. That's something that worries me about Brandon Nimmo. And I keep on saying it. And, people are like, we were talking about it in the offseason. Well, Nimmo got this contract now. They changed the rules when it comes to throwing over and the bigger bases, more stolen bases. Nimmo is quick enough to steal bases. But as you've seen, he's a good base runner with his speed, but he's not a stolen base guy. And this is something that affects the fact that he's a leadoff hitter that does absolutely nothing on the base pad. And put on top of that he is injury prone. I'm sorry. A guy who is injured 6 out of the 7 years of his career, that's an injury prone player that you just gave a massive contract to, that you're trusting to stay healthy when he gets older. And that's something that already we've seen that he's fragile by sliding the wrong way, or why he slid that way. I don't get it. Like, he didn't need to. It's not like he was trying to break up a double play because he was far from second base and he just fell on his ass. And it's just something that annoys me about Nimmo. He's a fragile player. One wrong step, one wrong, crash into the wall, Nimmo's on the IL. He's a fragile player, good ball player, but when you're trusting a guy and give him a massive contract like you did, you paid him as the best center fielder right now, and that's something that worries me because 6 out of the 7 years, he has not been healthy. That's injury prone. If you're expecting him to be consistently healthy through this season, I'm telling you guys right now, he's going to land on the IL, right? It was miraculous he didn't do that last year, but I think there was a big motive for that. Little nagging injuries here and there. He was staying in the game because he was looking for that big payday. Now, who knows? Who knows? That's what I worry about with Nimmo. Yeah, Joe, I seen that. Yeah, well, Mike Trout's living in his nice little big old mansion in Los Angeles, so I don't think he's worried too much. Yeah, Tino to St. John's. Again, I think the bigger problem is with now is the NIL stuff, so we'll see. Yeah, honestly, I still would have just signed Correa and just took a big chance on Correa because, it's not like his ankle was messed up last year, right? He's played. He hasn't missed a ton of games because of that ankle or at all. So I don't know. I would have gave him that contract and just, take the chance on Correa. I think he would do everything he can to play well and be healthy. He's playing with his buddy Lindor. I thought that would have been fine. But hey, what are you gonna do? No, Nimmo shouldn't be a team captain because he's never on the field. I don't know, Ken. All I hear is excuses. Oh, he bounced off the world. Now he got a nerve issue in his neck. Like every year, it's an excuse for Nimmo. Like, I'm sorry, but nobody's going to change my mind on Brandon Nimmo that the biggest motivation of him playing over 140 games last year for the first time in his career wasn't completely motivated because he was looking for a contract. And that's not just from the Mets, from any team. And I do believe that certain nagging injuries that Nimmo would be out for a little while, he kept his mouth shut and played through it. I'm telling you, I truly believe that. And I do that's the same thing goes for Aaron Judge and every other player that's looking for a big contract who is known to be injury prone throughout his career. And all of a sudden, Aaron Judge stayed healthy. All of a sudden, Brandon Nimmo stayed healthy when the guy couldn't stay healthy every year except for last year. So 6 out of 7 years, he's been injured. No matter if it's a fluke injury or it's an injury that you can't control, where you get hit by a pitch or you run into the wall or you make a stupid slide and your cleat got stuck. The point is, the facts are there. He is injury prone. And, you know, I know Nimmo said he should be ready for opening day. Who knows? All right. The Mets aren't going to chance it. I mean, the guy took off 2 weeks of spring training because he didn't want to get hurt. And then not even a week into he started playing, he gets hurt. So what is that? I just don't understand. I really don't get it. No, IT. He never said that. He thinks trying to steal bases is going to get him hurt. Wonderful. A guy that he just gave a lot of money to doesn't want to steal bases, even though he's your leadoff hitter and is a guy who got speed, but either can't or don't want to steal bases because he's worried about injury. I'm sorry. No, we're paying you a ton of money. You're going to figure that shit out. I'm sorry. I mean, you're a good leadoff hitter. You're an on-base guy. But once you get on base, you're basically a doormat until somebody hits the ball. Like, I just don't get that at all. John, what's up, buddy? Well, I said it from day one of the offseason. I would have gave all the money to trade Turner and let Nimmo walk. I'm telling you guys, I tell you right now, it was a huge mistake to let Trey Turner go to the Phillies. I think the Mets should have went all in on Trey Turner and give the money to Trey Turner and not Brandon Nimmo. Sorry. Trey Turner has played more games. He is more of a dynamic player all around, better defensive player, better offensive player, got tremendous speed. This guy's going to steal over 40 bases this year. And that's the type of dynamic play that this team needs. And that's why we were so desperate when the Correa thing was ready to happen. We were like, oh my God, look, we got a bat. We got a dynamic player. And then we did it. Trey Turner was that guy. I said that from the beginning. Trey Turner can play center field. They talked about it for years about Trey Turner's versatility. He came up as an outfielder prior to him going to shortstop when he came up with Washington. He was drafted as an outfielder. He can play the outfield with his speed, with his durability, with his versatility, with his athletic skills. He could have played center field. And you know what? He'll probably play it better than Brandon Nimmo. All right? Analytics don't have to make Brandon Nimmo better. All right? But guess what? I'm sorry. Nimmo is never going to be worth that money. I'm telling you that right now. This guy is going to be injured. He's done it his whole career. Why is it when he's getting older, we expect him to stay healthy now? So I'm watching Baseball Night in New York right now. David Robinson's quote, this is about the pitch clock. It's way too fast, especially when you're just trying to have a conversation with your catcher and you don't have any time. So great. Our new closer doesn't like the pitch clock. So that's wonderful. So it's a guy already complaining about the pitch clock, and now he can't talk to his catcher, and now it's too fast, and that's something that now we have to worry about as well. Oh, goody. I don't think so, John. To be honest with you, I do think, buddy. I do think he said he wanted to come back to the East Coast. I'm telling you right now, money talks. If the Mets would have came up with a bigger offer than Philly, he would have came to the Mets. And John Middleton doesn't have deeper pockets, okay? Steve Cohen can eat him for breakfast, all right? Steve Cohen can buy John Middleton out, and he'll still be the richest owner in baseball. Like, I'm sorry. Did Turner have a soft spot for Philadelphia because of Bryce Harper, because of his wife being from Jersey and all that stuff? Yes. But money talks. If you were to give him more money, it would have been very hard for him to go to Philadelphia and leaving $30 to $40 million on the table. I'm sorry. I love Trey Turner. I thought it was a great move for the Phillies. I thought the main problem last year with them, they couldn't get guys on base for the big boppers in the lineup. That's changing with Trey Turner. This is why the Phillies are going to be even more dangerous with their lineup because of Trey Turner being an absolute pest at the top of the order and getting on base for those big guys in the middle of the order. Well, you know what? We'll never know because the Mets really never actually made an offer to him. So, yeah, Boogie, I don't know about between Conforto and Nimmo because Conforto is not really a center fielder. So, I still think Nimmo's a corner outfielder. I think he's a product of the analytics, and that's why he looks like a good center fielder, and numbers will show that. But I don't think Nimmo is actually a good center fielder. He has no arm. He's terrible going back on balls. So analytics told Nimmo to play deeper, and that hurts him with his arm because he can't throw anybody out. And balls that should be caught in shallow center is now dropping because Nimmo has to play deep because he's terrible going back on balls. Let's see. I'm just looking at the comments, guys. Give me a second. Yeah, look, the Mets are going to try everything they can to keep Marte healthy. Marte's not going to center field. They will throw Mark Canner out in center field before they do Marte. That's just it. Yeah, like I said this from the beginning. Verlander is going to be fine. Like, to me, he's 40 years old. Verlander even talked about it. His body's in really good shape. His body is healthy. His arm was obviously with the Tommy John. He says his arm feels like his arm felt like he was 25 years old. So I think he's going to pitch, and he's going to pitch a hell of a lot more than Jacob deGrom. And if he's on the mound every fifth day, he's going to be good. And I'm not worried about Justin Verlander at all. I'm probably more concerned about Scherzer than I am Justin Verlander. D'Angelo, I believe you. I agree with you 100%. I think the Mets should have took the risk on Correa. Sometimes you have to take a risk. And I think Correa was worth the risk. Even if he was, healthy for 3 years and then, started to have injuries after that, you deal with that. But those 3 years, there's a possibility of winning the World Series. And I'm surprised Cohen didn't go through with it because he's gave money to people who is injury prone. Let's be honest, guys. Brandon Nimmo has been a lot more injured throughout his career than Carlos Correa. But yet he was willing to give Brandon Nimmo a big contract, which Brandon Nimmo didn't deserve. But he got it. Good for him. But he was the only one on the market that was worth giving any type of money to. And, again, if you look at the injury history of Correa and Nimmo, it's not even close. Correa's played substantially more games, and Correa and Nimmo came up around the same time. So, I think it's going to be 30. Look, I know somebody put up that Grissom got optioned down to the minors, And I already said that. That's all they were doing. Brave fans, Grissom's going to replace Swanson. There's no problem there. He's going to be fine. Well, he just got options in the minors. So that's not happening right now. Again, he can come up in May and be great, but that's not happening right now. Again, I even said this over and over again. The Braves, sooner or later, when they bring up a kid, it's probably not going to work out sooner or later. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen with Grissom. I'm sorry. It's not easy to continue to replace somebody and have the same productivity every single time that you bring up a young kid, right? They got lucky with the trade with Olsen. I still think Freeman's still a better player. And then people are like, look at the stats. Well, did Olsen win you a World Series? No. Freeman did, right? Swanson was a huge part of that World Series in 2021, right? Last year, if it wasn't for Swanson, who knows where the Braves would have been? Because every time I watched Swanson against the Phillies, against the Mets, he was doing damage. He's not there anymore. So guess what? Everything's always not going to work out when you just throw somebody in there and it's going to work out. I'm telling you guys right now, I think the Braves are going to take a step back. Are they still going to be very good? Absolutely. But I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting. Because, Brave fans just seen it a couple of times where, bring up the prospect, it works out. Bring up the prospect, it works out. Sooner or later, it's not going to work out. And I do think this whole Grissom thing and not re-signing Swanson is going to be a huge deal for them. That is, you lost Freeman and Swanson in back-to-back years. You can't tell me that everything's going to be A-OK. I'm sorry. Balls do drop in front of him. Well, John, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you'll probably not admit this, but the Phillies were not a good team all year, right? I mean, let's be honest. They got hot at the right time. And like I said, look at the Nationals in 2019. They got hot at the right time. They were just as bad as the Phillies were in 2022, the way 2019 was to the Nationals. They got hot at the right time, and they ran it into the playoffs. Like I said, that doesn't make you a good team. I think you got better this year because you bolstered that bullpen a little bit more, and you got Trey Turner. That is huge additions. But let's not act like the 2022 Phillies were a great team because they weren't. They got hot at the right time, just like the Nationals got hot at the right time. Even the Braves in 2021, they weren't very good. There was no competition in that division in 2021 because the Mets weren't really good, even though they were in first place for a little bit. The Mets were never seriously that good. The Braves cruised to a division title and got hot at the right time. I do think the Phillies are a hell of a lot better than what they were last year, but what does that really get you, right? Right? The Dodgers were supposed to be really, really damn good last year too, and where did they end up, right? Not always the best team who makes the best additions get to the World Series or even win the World Series. I think we're putting the cart before the horse here, and that goes for the Mets as well, right? I don't think anybody's going to win 100 games in the NL East, and that's not saying that any of those teams are going to be bad. It's just a matter of the fact that the Phillies have to increase by 10 games or so to get to that 97, 98 plateau, where the Mets have to digress 3 or 4 or 5 games along with the Braves, right? So, like I said, I don't think any of these teams are going to be bad. I don't think they're going to be, on the border of being good. I think they're all going to be really good. It's just a matter of nutrition, basically. Who is going to stick around longer, right? The Phillies have a knack for playing bad defense, have a knack for struggling out of the gate, and it affects them throughout most of the season. They're not going to have Harper for almost half the year. That's a blow. Like there's no coincidence that Harper came back and they started to get better, right? We'll see. But I don't think anybody's going to be bad. Do I think everybody's going to be as good as they were last year? It's kind of hard to be better than 101 wins with the Mets and the Braves. But is it possible? Sure. It's kind of hard to think or, I could be a biased Met fan that says the Phillies ain't going to win 89 games. Like that's just stupid. I'm not going to say that. I try to be as fair as possible, but when other people are not realistic, it's kind of like, come on. Like let's not act like the Phillies weren't one of the worst defensive teams all year and their bullpen was garbage. Like, let's be honest. If the lineup started to hit home runs all over the place, their offense, what do they score? Like 50 runs a series? Like they were scoring a ton of runs. It's not like the pitching was absolute and the defense was absolutely amazing, because in a World Series, you look like the Phillies during the season. Bad defense, the bullpen struggled, and the starting pitching wasn't very good. So we'll see. Nimmo, really, to be honest, Tony. Yeah, John, I don't think the World Baseball Classic should happen at all, to be honest with you. That whole Diaz injury and now the Altuve injury could have happened to Turner, could have happened to Freeman, could have happened to a big player from another team. Like, I keep on saying that I was upset that it was Diaz because it affects the Mets, but I was more mad at the fact that this could have been any big player from any team, and there's a built-in excuse. If the Mets struggle out of the gate in closing games, we're going to go back to that. Well, if we had Diaz, it might have been different. Well, you can't say that when people were defending the WBC. You can't defend the WBC and say, well, if we had Diaz, it would have been different. You can't have both. You can't have both sides of the story. Either you're against the WBC because of stupid situations like that, because Edwin Diaz wouldn't be celebrating a 3-out save in the ninth in spring training, but he was celebrating because it was the WBC. That's why it's a problem. Not that it's not fun to watch and the excitement and the passion of the players and the fans. It's just that too many things can go wrong. And I'm telling you right now, if Aaron Judge was playing on USA and the guy blows out a knee, you don't think it would have been a much bigger story than Edwin Diaz, a closer of the Mets? But it wasn't the face of baseball. And everybody hates Altuve, so it doesn't matter if he's out 8 to 10 weeks, right? But if it was Aaron Judge, the darling of Major League Baseball and the face of Major League Baseball, or Mike Trout, the face of Major League Baseball, or Shohei Ohtani blowing out his arm on the mound at the WBC, it would be a much bigger problem. And more people would be saying, oh, you're crazy if the WBC doesn't mean anything. It doesn't. It means something pride-wise, but other than that, nobody is getting on their Hall of Fame plaque WBC MVP, WBC World Champion. No, it's not happening. So it pisses me off that people just think that, oh, if there was another player from another team that was a big-time person on a team, it would mean you wouldn't care. You wouldn't be as mad. Yes, I would be. If this was Trey Turner blowing out his knee at second base because he was playing in the WBC, I would be mad. Obviously, it would help the Mets most likely, but I would still be upset because this should not be happening. That's why you have the Olympics. That's why you have any type of other thing that you can do any other time outside. If there was no World Baseball Classic, or if a player said, I'm not playing for Team Puerto Rico because I don't want to get hurt and not be able to play for the Mets or whatever team, are Puerto Ricans all around the world are going to disown Francisco Lindor? No, they're going to still buy his jerseys. They're going to still wave the Puerto Rican flag at Citi Field when he comes to the plate. So let's not act like it's do or die, where if this player doesn't play for his country at the WBC, which is a glorified exhibition, that's what it is. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's not the Olympics. It's not the World Cup. Not even close. And again, you've seen two big names that are crucial to their teams in Altuve and Edwin Diaz both get hurt. Diaz out for the season, possibly might not be out the entire season, but who knows? And Altuve out most likely 8 to 10 weeks. That hurts your team. That can make all the difference in a couple of games that you might need to win that division at the end of the year. People don't realize that. People just act like, oh, you're just a hater of WBC. No. The point is that this isn't necessary. And Rob Manfred is throwing everything in our faces with the rules, with the WBC, with this and that. When I don't think what they should do with the WBC, if they're going to continue to have it, which they probably will, is to have kids or players from the countries that are represented in the WBC that are not in the major leagues or not in the minors to showcase themselves for scouts, just like that Nicaraguan 19-year-old who struck out Julio Rodriguez, Juan Soto, and somebody else, and he got signed on the spot by the Tigers. Why don't we have those guys who are not making no money and are not getting any TV or notoriety? Put them in the games. Are people not going to go to the games now? Isn't it still your country? Or do you need the stars for the WBC to work? Because if there's no stars and the WBC won't work, then what's the point, right? Aren't you supposed to be the pride of your country? Not just, oh, well, Lindor's playing for Puerto Rico, so I'm going to root for Puerto Rico. Or is it only because Lindor's there you're rooting for Puerto Rico because you're Puerto Rican? Or Mike Trout because of USA? Like, it just makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. All right, let's see. I agree, John. The pitch clock. Look, I enjoy every pitch. If I'm there 3.5 hours, so be it. I go into baseball knowing that I'm going to be watching the game for 3 hours. If it ends early, great. If it ends late, well, I know what I'm walking into when I walk into a ballpark. All right. I don't want to wait online to go pee because and miss an inning and a half because of the pitch clock. It's gonna suck. Or concessions and miss an inning and a half. Like the whole vibe and the whole culture of baseball is changing. You know, I don't need to go pee and I miss a full inning. That's crazy. John, let's be honest. We destroyed you when we went to Citizens Bank Park. I never saw Phillies biting their nails ever in August when the 7 line went there. I mean, they were the most quiet fan base of all time. Like, you guys put your heads in the dirt. No, John, you didn't have a slow start. You were a bad team, and you always were a bad team. You just got hot at the right time. Your offense got hot at the right time, which basically was all you needed. I'm sorry, but I was there in August when the 7 line went there. It was a joke, the Philly fans. Seriously. I usually, when I'm in Philadelphia and I go there, there's at least a couple of fans join back at Met fans. There was none of that. They were literally tail between the legs, head in the hole. Like, I never seen that before. And that is something that I was not expecting from Philly fans. It was weird. But let's not act like you guys were going, going crazy. So, Philly fans, are you bandwagon fans? Now you care or come at your own risk now? I don't think you're bandwagon fans. I think you're better than that. I think you're still one of the worst fan base in all of baseball. I think you can't go to a baseball game without getting something thrown at you. And that's very known from Philly fans. Like, I've said this story many times. Now, it's not everybody. Let me make that straight, right? Because I met a couple of Philly fans that subscribed to my channel that came up to me and, shook my hand after the game. Maybe because they know me, they didn't throw nothing at me or curse me, who knows? But we were going back and forth during the game. Respectfully, but we're going back and forth during the game. So, I don't know. Like I said, too many fans, and I look, sometimes I'm like this too. You put the blinders on with your team. Like, Philly fans completely forgot how bad they were the majority of the season. Like, in the middle of August, you guys were down in the dumps. Like, let's not act like a month and a half of a hot streak meant you were a good team. Like, the Nationals won the 2019 World Series, basically being garbage the entire 2019. So, I mean, you were the third wild card team, right? You snuck in. It's not like you played decent the whole year and were the second wild card or the first wild card, right? Look, I give the Phillies all the credit in the world. I did it all postseason when I was talking about them. I think Philly fans are shocked, but I give credit where credit's due. But let's not act like they were better than they actually were, because they weren't. They just got hot at the right time. Well, I see people putting up their preseason predictions. I will be doing that in the next couple of days or so. I started the video already. I just gotta do a couple of edits and all that stuff. I'm doing all the divisions, and then I'm gonna make another video based on the division winners and wild card winners to do a playoff bracket and my World Series prediction as well. And of course, prior to the World Series, whatever the bracket is, I'll do another, or prior to the playoffs at the end of the 2023 season, depending on who's in those playoff spots, I'll do a bracket for that to see how close I was for preseason predictions and prior to the postseason. Yeah, but explosive. I mean, yeah, that's true. But can't you say that for every team? There was a lot of games where things didn't go your way or things went your way. That's called sports. Like, somebody's always going to make a mistake. Somebody's going to benefit from it. That's sports, right? You know, when you're playing basketball, if somebody doesn't, switch on a pick and leave that guy wide open for an easy layup, well, they made a mistake. You see that in all parts of the game. You take advantage of players' mistakes or teams' mistakes. That's what you do in sports. You know, in football, if the safety creeps up a little bit and Dort, that the cornerback was going to guard the wide receiver, but he slows down thinking he has a safety behind him, and the wide receiver ends up wide open for a touchdown, that's a mistake. That is a communication issue. Sports is always somebody benefiting from somebody else's mistake. If a pitcher throws a ball right down the middle and it was supposed to be on the outside corner, well, more than likely the batter is going to take it 425 feet deep. So, you could say that the Mets happen to have, got a lot of things happen last season where they actually, they got, they benefit from a lot of good things last year or errors last year. Well, yeah, but that's sports. I mean, usually when there's a mistake, the other team benefits. Like, that's always the way it's been, and that's always the way it's been. So, all right. Yeah, but man, I understand that WBC is great passion-wise, but again, it's a glorified exhibition. Just because you don't want to admit it, that's what it is. I'm sorry, it is. I'm sorry. When Great Britain is letters are falling off, they don't care. Okay, right? When Colombia, and I said this in a stream the day after Diaz got hurt, Colombia looked like they used the extra part of the the linen and the stitches that they use for the Colombian men's national soccer team and put their jersey together. I'm sorry, when there's only 4 or 5 teams out of 12 that have a chance of winning the World Baseball Classic, it's not really something. Then you might as well just put the 5 same teams every year instead of 12 or 13. I mean, was Czechoslovakia really going to win, or Czech Republic, or Canada, or Colombia, or Great Britain? No. Like, I'm sorry, but it's like, yeah, I mean, come on. Like, again, what put it this way. If there was no major league players on the teams of the countries in the WBC, would there be sold out crowds? If you say no, then people only care about the stars and not exactly the country. So it's a combination. It's the stars and it's the country that people want to see, right? If it's only about the country and the pride, then it doesn't matter who's representing your team, your country, you're going to represent the country. So is the 35,000 fans in Miami in Lone Depot Park because Venezuela and Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic are playing? Or is it because the stars are playing for Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico that there's 35,000 fans? Or was there going to be only 15,000 fans because it's only Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic and not known stars of those two countries? Because if it's the latter, then it's about the stars and not about just the pride of the country. Because that's what the Olympics are for, right? Amateurs, professionals that only showcase themselves in the Olympics. That's what the WBC should be. It should be showcase, not a glorified exhibition for, millionaires and superstars of leagues to play for their country and, act like, all of a sudden, like they're not showing pride for their country if they don't play. That's ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. You either show pride for your country or you don't. So is it about 35,000 fans in Marlins Park for DR against BR because of the countries playing, or was it because the stars are playing for those countries? If it's both of them, well, then that's why there's 35,000 fans. But if you put Puerto Rico against Dominican Republic and there's no Major League Baseball players and it's a bunch of guys that are showcasing themselves from those countries, will they be 35,000 fans? Probably not. So it's a glorified exhibition. It's a combination of both of why there's a lot of people going to those games. Well, Michael, that's why I don't watch First Take or ESPN. The only time when I turn on ESPN is when there's Ranger hockey on or the Mets are playing. That's it. No, Carl, I don't think it's going away. I'm not saying they don't love playing for their country, but let's not act like. And this is the problem with these players. Look, the players are not going, or who are playing are not going to say, well, I can do without this. Well, they're in it. Of course, they're going to say, oh, it's great. It's the best time I ever had. Well, okay, Mike Trout's saying that, but he's been to the playoffs once. Well, let's not act like, he is like the poster child like of that. Like, so it's kind of like, it's not about the pride of the country for those players. You're going to tell me that, what about going to your country and building a baseball field and, building a school in your community? Doesn't that show pride in your country? It only has to be about playing in the WBC, where it could affect the major league team if somebody gets hurt that is crucial to your team. I'm sorry, but if somebody got hurt that wasn't Edwin Diaz or a hated guy in Jose Altuve around baseball, but if it was Aaron Judge who got hurt or Mike Trout or Shohei Ohtani who was out for the season because they got hurt in the WBC, I guarantee you something would change. But because it's Edwin Diaz and it's a closer, and because it's a hated guy in Altuve, nobody's batting an eye. Everybody's turning the page. Yeah, Cesar, I'm not saying it doesn't feel like a playoff game. But the point is, would you have went if it was USA against Cuba if there was no major league players in them games? But it was just the countries playing with, kids or baseball players in the leagues around the countries, but not major league players. But they're still wearing USA, they're still wearing Cuba, they're still wearing Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic. Would you still have went? Or would it have been not that important to go? Because it's more about the stars than it is about the country. Like, let's be honest. If Joe Schmo was playing shortstop for Puerto Rico instead of Francisco Lindor, and every other Joe Schmo, John Smith, or was playing on Puerto Rico, that wasn't a Major League Baseball player or a star that people follow, would there be 35,000 fans there? Would it sound like a playoff? Would there be that many people going to those games? Probably not. So it's about the stars more than it is about the country. Like, let's face fact about that. All right, guys. So we're going to end the stream in a little while. Let me just catch up a little bit. Well, that's why Rob Manfred is doing it. He's so in love with the casual fan and doesn't care less about the real fans who are there 162 games, who go to a tremendous amount of games, spend a lot of money on games, watch every game on TV. He don't care about them. It is a money grab, and I said that from the beginning. It is. Not saying that it's not cool to watch and there's not passion involved. Of course there is. But let's not act like it wasn't for reasons to get the casual fan involved. But let's be honest, guys. Is Puerto Ricans, if there was no WBC, weren't Puerto Ricans in Puerto Rico playing baseball already? Yeah. Wasn't Dominican Republic playing baseball prior to the WBC? So where are we getting the fans from? How are we showcasing to the world? Is a place like Germany watching the WBC because the closest relative to their country is Czech Republic playing? No. It's not like we're showcasing the world to them when it's only teams that are basically already closely playing baseball or very passionate about baseball. I don't think the Czech Republic is going to be showing MLB games on a nightly basis. All right. Japan was always crazy about baseball. Chinese Taipei was always crazy about baseball. Korea, always crazy about baseball. They sold out their professional ball club stadiums. It's not like, when people are like, 63 million fans in Japan watched that World Baseball Classic game that Japan played. Well, yeah, because they love baseball. That's not gaining new fans. Where was the ratings for Colombia facing USA? I didn't see that number because I'm going to show you the majority of people in Colombia weren't watching that game. Were they maybe a little interested? Yeah. But I can assure you right now, they're probably worrying about their soccer team that didn't make the World Cup. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not act like this is growing the game. It's not. All right? Were people glued to their TV because Great Britain was playing? No. All right? They're concerned about the Premier League. Man City, Manchester United, Crystal Palace, all the Leicester City, all those damn, Arsenal. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, let's not act like it's growing a game. You're naive if you think it's growing a game because the countries that are involved, most of them, those countries are care less. But the ones that we already know that get players all the time to Major League Baseball, Puerto Rico, DR, Korea, Japan, Mexico, you see in Venezuela, those are countries that are already playing baseball at a rapid level. Like, I'm sorry, where was the rate? They couldn't wait to throw out on Twitter the 63 million fans, that the people that were watching in Japan, but where was the ratings number for Colombia? I guarantee you it was probably extremely low and embarrassing. That's why they didn't put that number there. But let's show Japan, which we know they love baseball. But are they, if Shohei Ohtani isn't pitching or playing, or, Senga isn't pitching, is people in Japan watching the Mets, or are they just watching that player when they're playing? Like, come on, let's not act like it's growing a game, guys. Oh, that's another showcase. Again, let the kids play for their countries. Let's leave the stars to their teams. All right, you can find other ways to show pride for your country. Build a school in your native city of that country. Do charity events. Give gloves to the less fortunate in your country. That's showing pride. But I don't need you playing for your country and acting like that's the only way you can show pride. And then when you get hurt, and you tell me that it's more important than a World Series. Sorry. It's not. It isn't. Well, right wing, that's the whole point. They need the stars, or the WBC wouldn't gain the attraction or the money or the revenue from it. So is it more about the stars, or is it more about the country? Or is it a combination, or it would fail with just one? Right? You see the stars in Major League Baseball. Tell the people in those countries, hey, watch Major League Baseball. How about giving a subscription to MLB.TV to Colombia so they can watch the games for free and whenever they want to? That's how you grow the game. Where was the ratings for Colombia when they were playing USA? I didn't see that. You know why? Because it was probably embarrassing. Let's see. Hayden, what's up, buddy? Yeah, they sell out Little League games because there's parents that are the parents of the kids. That's why. Like, let's be honest. The parents travel with the kids. Of course, they're gonna have crowds there. Yeah, and yeah, I know. Like, there's no disrespect to Colombia. Like, let's be honest. Colombians care about their national soccer team, and whoever they might root for, in the Premier League or whatever professional soccer league they have in Colombia. I don't know. I don't sound like I follow it, but let's be honest. They're not turning on the TV to watch baseball on a regular basis. You're not growing the game of baseball by telling me that 63 million people in Japan turn on the television and watch Japan play in the WBC. That's not. Why is that shocking to people? We know. I've been to Japan. All right, I've been to baseball games there. They sell out no matter what. So where are you growing the game? That's not growing the game. The NFL goes to Germany. The NFL goes to the UK because, well, they're trying to get European fans involved. They're trying to get a team in England or the UK and stuff like that. Like, that's how, going to Germany is growing the game because they don't see that product on a daily basis. Like, I mean, come on. Like, I really want to see, show me the ratings for Colombia when USA was facing Colombia. Like, wouldn't that be more of an interest than telling me 63 million people watched it in Japan, which is like, duh, they love baseball. That's not a shock. All right, guys. So, with that said, check out the video that I posted about the Mets possibly trading for a closer. 3 options: Alexis Diaz, Daniel Bard, and David Bednar. Those 3 guys are probably the most likely options the Mets might look at. There's been indications, and the Reds GM talked about getting an next question about, did the Mets Billy Epler approach you about Alexis Diaz recently? GM of the Reds said no. But why would the GM of the Reds openly say that he had conversations with any team regarding one of his players when he didn't? Like, it seemed like he wanted to reopen discussion with Billy Epler. Because why would he make that known to the public? It's very odd. So watch out for that, guys. Don't think for a second that that's just smoke, right? Because when there's smoke, there's fire. And I think the Reds GM smartly put that out to the public and the media so Epler knows that he was actually thinking about this and thinking about the possibility of Epler calling him. I think that was an open invitation from the Reds GM telling Billy Epler, hey, give me a call. Let's reopen discussions that we had prior in the trade deadline last season. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think in the video. Check it out if you haven't already. It's pretty cool. I go into depth about each of those pictures. It's about a 17-minute video. So take your time, enjoy it. The poll is still up, I believe. You can click on which pitcher you would actually want to see the Mets go, but be careful what you pick because packages for prospects could be higher with the guy you pick. So with that said, everybody, have a great night. Let's go, Mets. 10 days. 10 until opening day 2023 for all of baseball. But what we care about right here on the channel is Mets baseball, Mets, Marlins, March 30th. 4:10 in Miami. 7-Line Army Strong going to be there. And many, 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 many New York transplants are going to be at that game. Queens South is the theme. And that's what it's going to be at Lone Depot Park on the 30th, guys. Everybody have a great night. Let's go, Mets. Check out the video about the trade, about possible closers to the Mets. Have a great night, guys. Let's go, Mets. See you next time.
We got teamwork. Mets cheer. For all your Mets cheer, let's go.